Klein nodded and said, "All right, but I still don't know what my mission is." "Nothing dangerous. I haven't seen any signs of danger at the very least," Dunn emphasized. "This is a case which was referred to us by Golden Indus Police Department. The famous philanthropist Sir Deweyville has been experiencing unusual harassment over the past month." Okay, I'm guessing some rich people are harassing Deweyville. Be it his bodyguards or security guards he has employed or the police, none of them have been able to find the culprit. Inspector Toll, who is charged with this case, suspects that it involves Beyonder's powers, and thus handed the case over to us. So Deweyville, my goat by the way, is one of the most generous people in this novel so far. I think it's to do with Aurora Order, honestly. I feel like obviously Deweyville doesn't exist in Donghua so far, but I think it has to do with the Aurora Order as well. So let's see. I saw Sir Deweyville at the library the other day and noticed that he was feeling down and lethargic. So it was a result of being harassed. Klein knitted his brows and asked, "What kind of harassment is it?" "There hasn't been any physical harm inflicted yet, thus the harassment won't be considered dangerous. Sir Deweyville hears moans and cries every night. No matter where he is, be it thinking or not, this has affected his sleep quality negatively." Dunn flipped the notes in his hands. He has seen a psychiatrist and has asked his butlers and servants to confirm that it was not an illusion. Having confirmed it isn't a hallucination, thus it is suspected that someone is harassing him. Closing the file, Dunn looked up at Klein. I mean, it has to be under then because of moans and cries at night, right? And everywhere he goes. Or maybe he just hears voices. What if Deweyville is like... What if Deweyville has high spirituality and he's just like a late bloomer? You know what I mean? Maybe he's hearing like ghosts. That's what I'm maybe thinking as well, if it's not a Beyonder. Because I'm trying to think like, what will the Aurora Order benefit from this? What will the Orders benefit from this, right? So if they don't, then is it really a Beyonder? He's schizo, that's what I'm thinking, yeah. Maybe he's schizo. And maybe he's a high spirituality and he just, you know, bloomed later. Anyway, change into your probationary inspector uniform in the break room. Then meet Inspector Toll, who is in charge of this case at the shooting club. He'll provide you with more details. This is first time we have seen Inspector Toll, right? I want to see Bitch again. Bitch is my favorite police officer, by the way. Probationary inspector uniform? Klein asked instinctively. Dunn rubbed his forehead and smiled. Half of our salary comes from the police department, and the title of probationary inspector doesn't merely belong in the records. When you met Leonard and I for the first time, we're also wearing uniforms. Ah, true. This is a perk held by fully official members. Yes, the perks, as Emperor Cell will call it. Bitch, my coat. Second coat. Yeah, I know, right? I love Bitch. Unfortunately, I can't wear it as casual outfit, otherwise I'd be able to have another spare outfit when my clothes are being washed. Klein picked up his cane and paid Warvel before leaving the captain's office. He headed toward the break room and saw a black and white checkered uniform, complete with leather boots placed on the table. The uniform peak cap was embroidered with the logo of the police department. 2 cross swords and a crown. Located on the shoulder was a black and white epaulet with a shimmering silver star. Yeah, it's like a police uniform. This is a probationary inspector uniform. Klein glanced at the uniform and noticed a string of numbers under the silver stars. 06254. That's Klein's badge number. So when Klein is naughty, all the civilians are gonna be like, 06254 was rude to me. He had some understanding of the police rank structure in the Loan Kingdom. He knew that those at the top were the minister and chief secretary of the police force. Under them were the respective commissioners, deputy commissioner's assistant. So does the 06 mean like his rank? Like probationary inspector is all 06? Commissioners of the various police departments, those in the middle were superintendents and inspectors, while those at the very bottom were the sergeant and constables. I see, okay. After closing the door, Klein took off his suit and hat before changing into the uniform. He hung himself, suit up, and left the room. He made his way back into the clerk office and looked at himself using the full body mirror that Roseanne brought him. Oh, thank you, Roseanne. A Steam 6? Okay, yeah, makes sense. The young man in the mirror had black hair with a gentle brown eye, tall. The uniform on his body accentuated him the heroic spirit. Not bad, Klein praised himself narcissistically. Oh, hung in the mirror. God, I have autism, man. Young man in the mirror, that's that's Klein. Not bad, Klein praised himself narcissistically. He left his cane in the office and left the Blackthorn security company. Inside his pockets were a full set of equipment ranging from weapons to his police badge. At the hall of the shooting club, okay. Klein met Inspector Toll immediately since he was the only one in a police uniform. Of course, there's me too, Klein thought. If we didn't see, did we see Klein in a Donghua wearing a police uniform? I don't think so, right? Is there any fan art for that? I would love to see like Klein rocking the police uniform. You know what I mean? There were 2 silver stars on the epaulets of the Inspector Toll's uniform. Okay, 2 stars. His clothes were propped up by his stomach and he had a thick blonde mustache. Ooh. His frame was tall but not imposing. Perhaps it was imposing in the past. Moretti. Klein Moretti. Inspector Toll noticed Klein and welcomed him with a smile. Hello, Inspector Toll. I believe you that you have the right person. Klein replied amicably. Then followed his memories. He raised his right arm, kept his fingers straight and tight before saluting. Like this. Toll chuckled. I can tell that you'll be a young man who's easy to get along with. That's good. Shall we head to Sir Dewey's place now? Even though he was a higher rank than Klein, the tone in his query was obviously friendly. That's good. No problem, Klein thought for a moment before he said, you can fill me in on the details in the case on the carriage. Sure. Toll stroked his thick blonde beard and guided Klein out of the shooting club. They boarded carriage which has stopped on the other side of the road. So Toll, being a little bit higher ranking officer in the police, he's probably aware of Beyonders, right? There was the 2 crossed swords and the crown. 2 crossed swords and the crown, okay. Police emblem in the carriage, and it came with a personal carriage driver. Sir Dewey is a believer in the goddess. So, we referred the case to you, Toll said quickly as he sat down. I know, the fine knight is a common figure on the covers of newspapers and magazines. Klein flashed with a friendly smile. Klein has charisma, man. Toll picked up the document docket beside him and removed the seal before taking out the materials inside. As he flipped through them, he explained, regardless, even if you are aware of it, I need to provide you with a detailed briefing. Okay. Sir Deweyville is one of the richest tycoons of Tingen City. He built his career beginning with a lead and porcelain factory. He has now expanded to steel, gold, shipping, banking and bonds. Oh my god, he's also a great philanthropist that has been praised by the king, having set up the Deweyville Charity Foundation, Deweyville Trust and Deweyville Library. He was also knighted 5 years ago. If he were willing to run up for a mayor, I don't think anyone in Tingen City would be contest with him. Is that why he's being harassed, maybe? They don't want him to run as a mayor? But background is his goal. He wants to become a member of parliament. He once suspected that the harassment might be related to this, but we have no clues to this date. Maybe it is like a political opponent or something, you know? Klein nodded slightly and said, we can't rule out the possibility, but there's nothing to confirm that suspicion as of now. Toll didn't dwell on this point, he continued. On the 6th of last month, Sir Deweyville has heard painful skin-numbing moans every night when he sleeps. Again, a patient fight for his life. He has checked the surrounding rooms multiple times, but he hasn't found anything unusual. His butler and servants have also confirmed that they have heard such sounds, but it's simply softer for them. Oh, really? They also heard it? His butler and servants have also confirmed that they heard such sounds. Interesting then. I thought maybe, you know, Deweyville just has high spirituality and it just came out later, but now if the butlers are just yes men, you know? To make him feel better. But he said that to police, so no. In the beginning, Sir Deweyville believed that this matter would pass quickly and didn't pay too much attention to it, but the moans became more and more frequent, to the point of occasionally happening during the day. There was even an addition of heart-wrenching cries. This has made Sir Tyrell lose sleep at the time and time again. He had no choice but to leave Tingen to his villa in the villages, but it was to avail. The moans and cries persisted. Similarly, the phenomenon persisted even in backlands, just that it wasn't as serious. Wasn't as serious? I still have an idea in my mind that maybe Sir Tyrell did something horrible in his past. That's why he is so charitable, because he's trying to make up for his mistakes, and then he's just hearing like the cries of people he hurt, maybe? I don't know. Check Discord. Some art. Klein wearing a police uniform. Very anime here. You know what I mean? That's cool. Look at this pendulum here as well. That's so cool. I love that. Thank you for sharing. As a femboy. Man. I wish. This has made Sir Tyrell lose sleep time and time again. He had no choice but to leave Tingen to his villa. He employed security guards to check his surroundings, but they didn't find any clues. Our preliminary investigations also came up with nothing. Can I have your authorization to repost this content? RMGI, post it where, kind of hail? Billy? Yes. Somewhere else? Let me know first. After listening to Toll's explanation, Klein quickly analyzed and came up with possibilities. He offended a Beyonder and is suffering from a curse. That's what I'm thinking, maybe. No, if he was suffering from a curse, the butlers would servants in the house won't hear the same things. Yeah. What's up, Merlin? There's a Beyonder with unknown motives hidden among the servants and bodyguards. The problem stems from the point that there has been no request made of Sir Tyrell over the past month. Perhaps Sir Tyrell accidentally came into contact with some vengeful evil spirit? The possibility cannot be ruled out. True. The carriage entered the golden Andu borough while Klein was still deep in thought. It stopped at the door of Sir Tyrell's house. I'm guessing golden Andu borough is like the rich people live, right? Less happy? Is this happy? Maybe. Same music on loop, actually, you're right. I got some, don't worry. Steel fence, sorry. Oh my god, Heavenly Envoy! My favorite fucking user. My goat. Our celebrity. What's up, dude? How are you doing? Happy to see you here. Perhaps Sir Tyrell accidentally, yeah. A steel fence surrounded a lush garden. There were two statues by the side of the hollowed metal. There was two statues by the side of the hollowed metal case, a magnificent fountain that showered a marble sculpture with water in the expensive two-story building, as well as a path wide enough to fit 3 carriages. Even the knight's house is only 2 stories high. The newspaper reported that Backlund is experimenting with building 10-story apartments. Ooh, I like that. Klein got off the carriage and saw a sergeant with 3 chevron stripes walking over briskly. Ooh, three stripes. He looked at Klein and saluted. Good morning, sir. Good morning, Klein nodded with a smile. Toll smiled. This is Sergeant Kate. You can tell him if you need anything. This is a probationary Inspector Moretti, a history and psychological expert from the police department. Toll introduced Klein to Kate. I don't deserve her title. Klein felt a little embarrassed. After the greetings, Kate pointed to the 2-story building behind the fountain and said, Sir Tyrell is waiting for us. Alright, Klein caressed the revolver at his waist. That was his best bet against an enemy. Since he was in police uniform, he could put his revolver in a holster and he said, making it easier to throw it. As they spoke, the trio made their way down the path, around the fountain, and arrived outside the door. By then, the door was already opened by a servant who was waiting politely at the side. As Klein pretended to adjust his hat, he tapped twice on his lapella to activate his spirit vision before entering the house. The square-faced Sir Deweyville was massaging his forehead in the hall. He was clearly in low spirits. His blonde hair and his blue eyes were either dry or tall, as though he had aged considerably by at least 5 years. Damn, that's stress, I think. Good morning, Sir Deweyville. Klein, Toll, and Kate bowed at the same time. Sir Deweyville stood up and forced out a smile. Good morning, officers. I hope that you can resolve what's been causing me distress. At the moment, Klein squinted and slightly knitted his brows. Other than his low spirits, Klein couldn't find any other problems with Sir Deweyville. That's odd. He thought for a moment before he said, Sir, in which room did you first hear the moans? My bedroom, Sir Deweyville shook his head. Can we take a look? Inquired Klein. Haven't you checked many times? The middle-aged butler interrupted from the side. Look, that's kind of sus, butler. It was clear that he didn't notice that Klein was partner of the kind-hearted soul that had not pocketed the money that he picked up. Oh, same butler, by the way. Klein smiled, composed. Those are my colleagues, not me. Sir is an expert sent by the police agency, Toll said, taking the opportunity to introduce him. Dewey looked at the young expert and said, All right, Colin, take him to my room. Sir, I hope that you will come with us, Klein said seriously. Dewey hesitated for a few seconds before saying, If that can solve the problem. He grabbed his cane and as he spoke, he made his way weakly toward the staircase with the butler Colin and several guards beside him, ready to support him if needed. Is he just so is he pretending to hear moans and voices? No, that can't be true because the butler and also the servants have also heard it. Okay. Klein surveyed the surroundings as he followed behind them silently. 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. They arrived at the second story and entered the master bedroom. Klein didn't have the time to survey the surroundings when the hair on his body stood on their ends. This was feedback from his spiritual perception. So there is something in that fucking room. Well, it cannot be the room because even when he left the city, it still followed him. Well, let's think about this, right? It isn't him going crazy or pretending or faking it because other servants and butlers can hear it. It can't be Beyonder cursing him again because other servants and other butlers hear it. So what can it be? It has to be someone in his inner circle who's doing it to him because it follows him around. Or he's doing it to himself to get out of it somehow. Maybe. It's kind of obvious. We'll see about that. XS Fanbur Sketcher 92. What's up, Pete? Findings by sight. Let me change the thing. Sir Deweyville's bedroom was larger than the living room and the dining room of Klein's house combined. Wow! It was partitioned into a place for a bed, a living space, a changing room, a bathroom and a study desk and the bookshelves. The furnishings were exquisite and the details were extravagant. But Klein, the light seemed dimmer and the temperature was several degrees colder than outside. At the same time, he seemed to hear the sound of sobbing and moaning, as though one was putting up a last-ditch struggle. Then he was in a trance, and everything suddenly returned to normal. The sunlight shone brightly through the window and poured over the entire bedroom. Temperature was reasonable, neither too high nor low. The surrounding policemen, bodyguards, and butler were quiet. No one spoke. He looked sideways at the classic yet luxurious bed. He felt there were pairs of blurry eyes lingering in the shadow, like the moths and fearlessly stayed around cast lamps. I mean, there's some spirit haunting him then. Maybe the true creator somehow, or something like that. Taking a few steps closer, Ryan lost the early images from his spirit vision. Not a standard wraith or evil spirit, what is it exactly? Klein frowned and recalled the mysticism knowledge that he had been learning all this time. From what he had seen, the mission would have been easy if it was passed to a corpse collector, gravedigger, or spirit medium. It was obvious not within his domain of expertise. Holding back his urge to use divination and as an investigative approach, Klein looked around slowly to look for the other traces to confirm the few guesses on his mind. Inspector, Sir Dewey hesitated and asked, "Do you discover anything?" "If it were that easy, I believe my colleagues wouldn't have waited until now," Klein replied, glancing at the philanthropist subconsciously. Just as he planned to retract his gaze, suddenly he saw that there was a faint white human figure reflecting behind Sir Dewey with the mirror behind him. No, there were many figures overlapping each other, resulting in a white, disordered figure. The figure flashed by and Klein seemed to hear a faint sobbing. Phew, he let out a breath to ease his nerves, having almost thrown his gun out on right. I'm guessing that maybe Sir Dewey is a little bit of a fraud. Heightened spiritual perception with spirit vision will only scare me senseless. Klein tried relaxing his tense nerves by joking around before redirecting his focus back onto Sir Dewey. This time he saw something different. Now that he was in the bedroom, Sir Dewey had a faint and twisted figure shimmering around him, even dimmed the lighting of that area. Corruption! Every flash was accompanied by an illusionary cry and moan that would hardly be detected by an ordinary person. So he's being haunted by like spirits. Hardly audible for an ordinary person under ordinary circumstances. It is because it's daytime, Klein nodded as he thought. He had an initial judgment for this case. It was resentment that was haunting Sir Dewey. It was the remnant spirituality that resulted from unresolved emotions before a human's death. There we go. What human's death, though? You up to this so bad. It's just feelings of resentment stay in the world over a period of time. They will become terrifying, wrathful spirit after becoming stronger. However, Sir Dewey was a famous philanthropist. Even Penson, who was a picky person, was in the way of him. Why would he be bogged down with the resentment of the dead? Is he actually two-faced? I fucking called. If this is confirmed, I called it. I called it from yesterday that he's doing his philanthropy to cover up for his bad things or to feel better about it, man. I swear. I said it last stream. Hello, Monkey King. Would it be the means of Beyonder with nefarious intentions? Klein guessed the possibility suspiciously. After some thought, he looked towards Dewey and asked, "Honorable sir, I have a few questions." "Please ask," Dewey sat down warily. Klein organized his thoughts and asked, "When you leave here to go to a new place such as the village or backland, do you temporarily get at least half a night's worth of peace? The situation resumes and gradually worsens. Even when you sleep during the daytime, are you able to hear moaning and sobbing sounds?" Dewey half-closed eyes suddenly widened as his deep blue eyes were suddenly beaming with hope. "Yes. Did you find the root problem?" Only then did he realize that due to his extended period of insomnia and his poor mental state, he had completely forgotten to inform the police about such an important clue. Seeing that Klein question had uncovered something useful, Inspector Toll relaxed. He knew that the Nighthawk had found a clue. Sergeant Kate was surprised and curious too. He couldn't help but look closely at the psychological expert Klein. It coincided with the traits of gradual entanglement and the feature of accumulation. Having received the feedback, Klein had basically confirmed the cause. Then he had two ways of helping Sir Dewey to shake off the burden. One was to set up an altar directly around the man and remove the resentment of the dead entirely, using ritualistic magic. Second option was to use other mysticism measures to find the root of the problem and solve it from there. I want to get more details about this. Taking into consideration the rule of preventing commoners from learning of beyond their powers to the best of his abilities, Klein planned on first attempting the second method, which is use other mysticism measures to find the root of the problem and solve it from there. That's the second method. Only if it failed would he pray to the goddess. "Sir, yours is a psychological illness, a mental problem." He spoke nonsense with absolute seriousness while looking at Dewey. He spoke nonsense with absolute seriousness. Sir Dewey knitted his brows and asked in a reply, "Are you telling me that I am a mental patient, that I need to enter an asylum?" "No, nothing that serious. Actually, most people have psychological problems to one degree or another. Ryan casually comforted him. Please allow me to introduce myself again. I'm a psychological expert from the Ottawa County Police. Psychological expert? Dewey Will and his butler looked at Inspector Toll, who they were familiar with. Toll nodded seriously and confirmed that it was true. Alright, what do you need of me for my treatment? Besides, I don't understand why my butler, my bodyguards, and my servants will hear the sobbing and moaning as well. Dewey held his walking stick with both hands, looking confused. Klein replied professionally. I will explain it to you after it's resolved. Please tell your butler and your servants and your bodyguards to leave. Inspector Toll, Sergeant Kate, please leave as well. I need a quiet environment to begin the initial treatment. A treatment with magic? Inspector Toll added in his heart and nodded to Sir Dewey Will. See? Toll is like kinda aware of Beyonders. I'm guessing a lot of like the higher ups in the police. Dewey fell silent for more than 10 seconds before saying, Colin, take them to the living room on the second floor. Yes, sir, Butler Colin didn't retort since the request was made by a police officer, a probationary inspector, and a psychological expert. After watching them leave the room, one after another, and closing the door behind them, Klein looked at Dewey, who had dark blonde hair and blue eyes, and said, Sir, please lie down on your bed, relax, and try to sleep. All right, Dewey hung his coat and hat on the clothes rack before walking slowly to the side of the bed and then laid down. Klein drew all the curtains, turning the room dark. He took off his pendant and quickly used spirit pendulum to determine any dangers. Then he sat in a rocking chair near the end of his bed, traced a spherical light in his mind, and entered cogitation. He allowed the world of spirituality to extend before his eyes. Then he leaned against the back of the chair and fell into deep sleep, allowing for his astral projection to make contact with external world. He was using a technique of dream divination to let himself be in the spiritual environment like he was dreaming, so as to communicate with each and every resentment that plagues Sir Dewey. We're gonna learn something now. We're gonna learn some tea about the fraud that is Dewey. Any communication will be able to give an answer and solve the problem. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A sad sob reverberated in Klein's ear, and he saw that the white, translucent figures were floating around him. A painful groan echoed as Klein, who barely regained his mental process, extended his right hand and touched one of them. Suddenly, the figures swarmed at him like moths darting toward a fire. The image before Klein's eyes suddenly turned blurry, and his brain seemed to be cleaved into two. Half of his mind was calmly observing, while the other half saw a mirror. In the mirror, there was a young girl dressed in worker garb. She looked strong and fit as she walked in a dust-covered factory, while her head dropped in pain. Her eyes had occasionally turned blurry, and the body became skinnier by the day. She seemed to hear someone calling her Charlotte, and the voice said that she had a hysterical illness. She looked towards the mirror and saw that she had a faint blue line on her gum. Mirror's view switched, and Klein saw another girl called Mary. She too walked in the late factory, young and lively. Suddenly, half of her face started twitching, followed by her arm and leg on the same side. You have epilepsy, she heard someone say while her body was convulsing. As she twitched and fell, the intensity increased before she finally lost consciousness. Damn! There was another girl, and she was depressed. She was walking around in the street in a daze to the point of having a speech impediment. She had a very bad headache, and she had a blue line on her gums. She would also convulse from time to time. She met a doctor, and the doctor said, Lafayette, this is also a fleet poisoning. The doctor looked at her with a pity and saw her convulse again. She twitched continuously, and the doctor saw that her eyes had lost all their light. So, Dewey owned the lead factory, and he poisoned them on accident. Probably. Many images appeared before Klein, and he remained immersed with them and calmly observed. Suddenly, he understood the plight of the girls. The original inspiration of these girls come from Jack London's People of the Abyss, apparently, so another reference. The female workers had been in extended contact with white lead. They all died of lead poisoning as a result of long-term exposure to the dust and powder. So Dewey had a lead factory under his name, and also two porcelain factories. All of them hired comparatively cheaper female workers. Okay, so there we go. I'm guessing Duel isn't like directly involved in killing this woman. It just happened because of lead poisoning. I mean, he's responsible because he was the owner. That's why they keep haunting her. That's why I'm guessing Duel is doing philanthropy or being like generous and charity because he wants to make up for the things he did. But I mean, I was guessing that he used to be evil, but that's not really the case, right? Social responsibility. Yep. Client saw all of that in silence and felt that there was something that still had not been clarified. Such death resentment was insignificant. It could not affect reality or have any effect on Duivel even when accumulated, unless this was more powerful and stubborn resentment that had divided them all. Okay, there's more. Wait, there's more. Just then he saw another girl. The girl was no more than 18 years old, but she was glazing the porcelain in the factory. Haley, how are you doing lately? Do you still have a headache? If it gets too serious, remember to inform me. Sir Duvel has enforced the rule that people with severe headaches cannot continue being in contact with lead and must leave the factory. And Nell already asked with concern. Haley dodged her forehead and replied with a smile. Just a little, I'm okay. Tell me tomorrow if it gets any worse, the elderly lady exhorted. Haley agreed. When she returned home, she massaged her forehead from time to time. She saw that her parents and brother had returned, but their faces looked hopeless. Your father and brother lost their jobs, her mother said as she wiped her tears. Her mother and the brother hung their heads low and muttered, "We will try to get some work at the harbor. We don't even have bread money on the day after tomorrow. Maybe we'll need to move to Lower Street." Lower Street. Haley's mother looked at her with reddened eyes. Now you're getting your bait. Send Solly, right? Haley massaged her forehead again. Oh, she's sick, but you know, she needs to make money. With a white toe with its spread wings. Wait. Oh. Yeah, Saturday. Didn't say anything else and remained as quiet as usual. She returned to the factory the next day and told her supervisor that her headache recovered and she felt fine. Damn, poor Haley, man. She smiled and walked 5 kilometers back and from to work daily. She massaged her head more and more frequently. You haven't found another job? Haley couldn't help but ask her father and brother while looking at the soup which had boiling with black bread. Her father said in frustration, "The economy is in recession. Many places are retrenching. Even the harbor jobs are sporadic. I could only get 3 soldi and 7 pence a week." Damn, that's so low. Haley sighed and fell into her usual silence. However, she hid her hand and that was twitching suddenly. Oh, she got lead poisoning. The second day she walked to work again. The sun was shining brightly and the street grew busier and busier with pedestrians. Suddenly she started convulsing all over. She felt the side of the road's foam spewing out of her mouth. She looked up into the sky and her gaze turned to a blur. She saw people walking past and others getting close. She saw a carriage pass by with the Duvel family emblem, with a white toe with spread wings as it ready to take off. She tried hard to open her mouth, but she couldn't make a sound, so she didn't say anything, quiet as ever. The difference this time was she was dead. Okay, so unfortunate, right? Even though Duvel knew about the lead problem. That's why he told the old ladies or whatever, the higher ups in the factory, to get people off work when they have headaches. So he's directly responsible. Fuck him. Seriously. Duvel has full responsibility on this. And that's why he has these people haunting him. 91. What a loser, by the way. And changed my mind on Duvel. For real. Okay, 91. Solution. So, client can communicate to them, right? I wonder, how can we make those girls go away? The scenery started to distort, turning illusory and began to fade away. After Klein left his dreamlike state, his vision adapted to the darkness in the room. He knew that with 1 pound and 10 soldi, which was 30 soldi a week, Benson didn't have an easy time supporting the family according to the standards of an average family. Yeah, because that father was earning so less money than Benson is. He had thought that the majority of workers earned 20 soldi a week. He had once heard Melissa remark that Lower Street of Iron Cross Street had 5, 7 or even 10 families squeezing into the same room. He also learned from Benson that as a result of the situation in the southern continent, the kingdom's economy was in recession for the past few months. He knew that a maid with board and lodging provided could earn between 3 soldi and 6 pence a week. 6 soldi a week, damn. Klein extended his hand and pinched his clapella. He was silent for a long time until Sir Dewey asked, "Officer, aren't you going to say anything? The psychiatrist I went to would always speak to me and ask questions in such a situation. However, I must say that I felt at peace, almost fell asleep. I haven't heard any moans or cries yet. How did you do it?" Klein leaned back in the rocking chair. Instead of providing an answer, he asked with a gentle tone, "Sir, do you know about lead poisoning? Do you know about the dangers of lead?" Is it lead or lead? Lead, right? Lead poisoning. Do you know about the dangers of lead? Curiel fell silent for a few seconds. He did not know about it in the past, but I do now. Are you telling me that my psychological illness stems from my guilt toward the female lead and porcelain factory workers? Without waiting for Klein to answer, he continued just like he always had in his position of power during a negotiation. Yes, I feel guilty about this in the past, but I did compensate them. I did compensate them when they're dead? I guess not all of them died. At my lead and porcelain factories, these workers do not earn less than other workers in the same industry. In Backland, lead and porcelain workers are paid no more than 8 soldi a week, but I paid them 10, sometimes even more. Wow, only 10 soldi? Damn. Many people criticize me for breaking ranks since it makes it hard for them to recruit workers. If not for the repeal of the Crane Act that made many farmers bankrupt, sending them to cities, they would have had to raise their wages just like I did. Furthermore, I also informed the supervisor of the factories to make sure that those with repeated headaches and blurry vision are to leave the areas where they are exposed to lead. If their illness is really severe, then they can even ask for help at my charity foundation. I think I have done enough. Klein spoke without a ripple of emotion in his voice. Sir, at times you cannot imagine how important the salary is to a poor person. Simply losing work for a week or two can result in irreversible loss to their family, a loss that will cause tremendous grief. He paused before saying, I am curious, why won't a kind person like you install equipment that can protect against dust and lead poisoning in your factories? Dewey looked at the ceiling and laughed ruefully. That will make my cost too high. What's the poster? Red Sky one? Itachi. You can't pay $1 billion to postman. I'm not saying to pay them $1 billion. But this is supposed to... That will make my cost too high for me to bear. I will no longer be able to compete with my other lead and porcelain companies. This is like late stage capitalism. He's getting women sick and killed over his profits. What do you mean what he's supposed to do? Because there's no government regulation, factory owners and businessmen can put people's life in danger for profit. So he will lose all his companies? Yeah, fuck him! Let him lose all his companies. And all the workers will lose jobs. Or get... Okay, I know this is like Victorian era, so there's not many regulation. Get regulation from the government that factories need to have this protection. If they don't make profits, just sell it for higher price to like people, like rich people. Like, two things can happen. I'm just saying. You can have good morals and also become rich. You don't need to play with people's lives like Dewey is doing. Dewey is wrong. Any Dewey defenders in this chat are... I'm not gonna say it. I don't insult people. That will make my cost too high for me to bear. I will no longer be able... The fact is, he could get protection for people's lives, and they choose not to because it will, like, make his profits less. Dewey was doing... You guys are so fucking dumb, man. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm the dumb one, but I'm just saying that he had a choice to... Because, like, playing with people's lives and putting them in danger is no joke. There is no any profit that's morally... Like, it's just morally wrong. My thing is so idealic. Yeah, so what? But my explanation... I'm calling that he has no morals because he wants profit over people's lives. What's wrong with my explanation about that? It's unreasonable. We're talking about Dewey being a millionaire and getting more profits because of over people's well-being and lives. It's people's poor life, they can't leave. I'm not telling the people to leave, I'm telling Sir Dewey to cut his profit margin for somewhere else and get the protection because there's technology for protection. There's no reason for him not to get... I get only greed. The only reason is not getting protection. What can it do again? Install equipment that can protect against dust and lead poisoning. That's what he can do. If he was actually a good person and not greedy and not morally corrupt, he will do this. He's doing charity and doesn't get profit. Just raise the prices. Are you guys saying that Dewey is a morally good person because you're saying you defend Dewey? He is greedy. That will make my cost too high for me to bear. I will no longer be able to compete with other lead and porcelain companies. I no longer pay too much attention to my profits in these areas of my business. In fact, I'm even willing to fork out some money, but that's the point of keeping the business. If I have to keep doing that, that can only help a number of workers and not become a standard in the industry or affect change in other factories. And exactly, that's what's wrong with capitalism. Then we need government regulations that people's lives are not gonna be in danger because some capitalist fucking greedy bitch wants to poison everyone with lead poisoning. Not he wants to, but it happens because there's no protection. He's capitalist to the core and he has no morals. He'd rather have people die and get sick than lose profit. Anyway. That will merely result in me working out money to support the workers. I heard that some factories even secretly hire slaves. I mean, yeah, these people are worse. Hire slaves to minimize cost. Klein crossed his hands and said after a moment of silence, what did Master said say? Anyway, whatever. Glenn crossed his hands and said after a moment of silence, Sir, the root of your psychological illness comes from the buildup of guilt. Despite you believing that the guilt has faded and disappeared over time, it will have any visible effects under normal circumstances, but there was something that triggered you and set off all the problems at once. Something that triggered me? I'm not aware of such thing, Tyrell said, puzzled but with conviction. There's a donation? Wait, what am I... where? Where's the donation? Thank you. I don't see the donation. Wait, I genuinely don't see the donation. Look, I don't see it. It's a donation. You guys are trolling me, right? Where's my chat, bro? Oh my god. YouTube is broken. Where's my chat? What's up with YouTube? I wanna thank... Oh my god. I wanna thank Masters for donating. ₹179. I support you, Evil. Oh my god. This is what Pro had to say, by the way. Thank you for your money. I am too evil in this situation. I take your money. Oops. Thank you, bro. Thank you for the rupees. Thank you for the stones. I'm gonna open a chat from here then. I think it's better. Pop out chat. There we go. Yay, thank you, man. Anyway, enough talk about capitalism. Let's keep going. I think he's a bad person. Trying not to chair the rock. Something that triggered me. I'm not aware of such thing. You will said puzzled, but with conviction. Klein allowed to chair the rock gently as he explained with a gentle tone. You did fall asleep for a few minutes just now, and you told me something. Hypnosis? Duel made a guess as he usually did. Klein did not give a direct reply and instead said, You once saw a girl dying on the way to work while you were on your carriage. Ooh, she said had died because of lead poisoning. She was one of your workers who glazed porcelain while she was still alive. Duel rubbed his temples speechless before saying somewhat doubtful. I think that happened once, but I can't remember it clearly. His prolonged insomnia had left him in a poor mental state. He could only faintly recall seeing such a scene. He thought for a moment, but gave up taxing his brain. Instead, he asked, What was that worker's name? Well, what I meant was, what should I do to cure my psychological illness? Klein replied immediately, 2 things. First, the worker that died by the side of the road was called Haley Walker. That was what you told me. She was the most direct trigger, so you have to find her parents and give them more compensation. Second, spread information about the dangers of lead in the newspaper and magazines. Allow your charity, the foundation, to help more workers who have suffered from damage. If you succeed in becoming a member of parliament, push for enacting laws in this domain. Exactly! Regulation! Let's go! You will set up slowly and laughed in a self-deprecating manner. I will do all the rest, but enact a law? Heh, I think it's impossible. Since there's still competition from nations beyond our countries, setting up such a law will just slip the entire industry and country into crisis. Factories will become bankrupt one by one and many workers would lose their jobs. Organizations that help the poor cannot save that many people. He slowly got off the bed and adjusted his collar, then looked at Klein and said, Haley Walker, right? I'll immediately get Colin to retrieve information about her from the porcelain company and find her parents. Officer, please wait with me and continuously evaluate my mental state. Alright, Klein stood up slowly and smoothed his back and white checkered police uniform. At 11 in the morning in the living room of Deweyville, Klein sat on the sofa in silence as he looked at the man and woman being guided into the house by butler Colin. The 2 guests had blemished skin, wrinkles already woven into their faces. Damn! The man had a slight hunch while the woman had a mole under her eyelid. They looked nearly identical to what Klein had seen through Haley, just older and more haggard. They were so skinny that they were almost all bone. Their clothes were old and ragged. Klein even learned that they couldn't continue living on Lower Street of Ironcross Street any further. Crying, sob. Klein sensed an inch of wind start to spiral through his spiritual perception. I see wind? Oh. He pinched his lapella and shot a glance towards her Deweyville. It was unknown when a faint white translucent controlled figure had appeared behind him. Haley! Good morning, Honorable Sir. Haley's parents were unusually polite. Deweyville rubbed his forehead and asked, Are both of you Haley's Walker parents? And you also have a brother and 2-year-old sister? Haley's mother answered in fear. Her brother broke his leg at the harbor sometime back. He got him care of his sister at home. Okay, Dewey will remain silent for a few seconds before he sighed. My deepest condolences of what happened to Haley. Upon hearing that, the eyes of Haley's parents immediately turned red. They opened their mouths and said over to each other, Thank you for your goodwill. Police told us that Haley died from lead poisoning. That's the term, right? Oh, my poor child. She was only 17. She was always so quiet, so determined. You had sent someone to visit her before and sponsored the burial. She's buried at the Raphael Cemetery. Dewey will glance at the client and changed his sitting posture. He leaned forward and said with serious tone, That was actually an oversight of ours. I have to apologize. I have considered that I need to compensate you, to compensate Haley. Her weekly salary was 10 solely, was it not? 1 year will be 520 solely, or 26 pounds. Let's assume that she will have worked for under 10 years. Colin, give Haley's parents 300 pounds. Damn, okay, that's actually pretty good. That's actually a pretty good amount. Wow. 300 pounds, Haley's parents. That's still like. But, yeah. Haley's parents were dumbfounded. Nighthawks gave more. Nighthawks give like 3,000, right? Never had more than £1 of savings, even at their richest. Sheesh. The difference between class in this world, I'm Victorian era again, right? Wasn't only them who were dazed, even the expressions of the bodyguards amazed in the room were also all of shock and envy. Even Sergeant Kate couldn't help but draw in deep breath. His weekly salary was only £2 and among his subordinates only one chevroned constable earned £1 a week only. Wow. Amidst the silence, butler Colin walked out of the study and held a bulging sack. He opened the sack and revealed stacks of cash, some £1, some £5, but mostly made up of 1 or 5 solely. It was clear that Dewey had made his subordinate who received change on the bank earlier. As an expression of Sir Dewey's goodwill, Colin handed the sack over to Haley's parents and receiving confirmation from his master. Haley's parents took the sack and rubbed their eyes, looking at it in disbelief. No, this is too generous. We cannot accept this, they said as they held the sack tightly. Dewey said in a deep voice, This is what Haley deserves. You're truly a noble, charitable knight. Haley's parents bowed repeatedly in agitation. They had smiles on their faces, smiles that they couldn't repress. They praised the knight repeatedly, repeating the same few adjectives they knew. They kept insisting that Haley would be grateful towards him in heaven. Colin sent them home. Oh, take them to the bank first. Dewey will heaved a sigh of relief and instructed his butler. Haley's parents hugged the sack tightly and walked toward the door quickly without stopping. Colin saw the faint, translucent figure behind Sir Dewey will attempt to extend its hands towards them, hoping to leave with them. Aww. But the parents' smiles were abnormally radiant. They didn't turn back. Damn. And also sensed its icy feeling, Scarlet's had instantly turned to normal. From beginning to an end, he all he did was sit there silently, not expressing his opinion. Officer, I feel much better now. Can you tell me why my butler, servants, and other bodyguards could also hear the cries of moans? It shouldn't just be solely a psychological illness of mine, right? Dewey looked at him curiously. Inspector Dalton, who knew the underlying truth, instantly became nervous. Klein replied with a much expression. In psychology, they call this phenomenon mass hysteria. Damn. Honestly, like I don't think Dewey is a good person. Also, he did this right now to make the trouble go away. He did this not to help Haley's parents. He did this so the moans and cries would go away. Again, like, he's such a two-faced bitch, in my opinion. You can have other opinion of him, you can, it's fine. The fact is that there is technology out there that can save people's lives at the workplace, and he's not think of a solution of cutting costs at other places, for example, maybe from his own pay, or for example, maybe somehow like try to get cheaper materials and save lives. He's just to go the easy route and just get people in trouble. Doesn't make him a bad person? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. 100% it does. If you only care about making money, greedy, and you don't care about people's lives, it makes you a bad person. Psychological work expert. That was actually pretty heavy, man. Wow. You can disagree if you want. I don't really care. I'm sorry. What does that mean? Am I that kind of person? Forgotten one. Can you explain? Friend who can never lose an argument. I wasn't trying to argue though. I just said my opinion. I said you can say your opinion, but I don't agree with that opinion. LTV will has to feed his family. Bro has 300 pounds in his wallet at every single time. I think he can, you know, he can manage either way, bro. Sorry. He tried his best not to get these people sick. Come on. Let's just think about this for a moment. I'm just repeating the same point over and over again. As in, there's technology to save people's lives. He's not using it because he will go out of business. That makes him morally bad. Yeah, like at least he doesn't have good morals. Anyway, psychological expert. Mass hysteria, Sir Dewey, who had met any psychiatrist recently, ruminated over the term Klein had said. Despite their curiosities, butler, bodyguards, and servants didn't make a single sound, since they had not been given permission by him. As for Sergeant Kate, he looked towards Klein doubtfully, as if he had never heard of that concept. Klein controlled his habit of music stopped. Music top. I agree, Luke. I agree. As for Sergeant Kate, he looked towards Klein doubtfully, as if he had never heard of that concept. Klein controlled his habit of tapping the armrest with his fingertip and calmly explained, humans can be fooled easily by their sensory organs. Mass hysteria is a kind of psychogenic illness that is a result of tense nerves and other factors amongst a group of individuals as they influence each other. Damn, Klein has an explanation ready. Do you donate all of your excessive cash to charity? I don't have any excessive cash right now because I basically live pay to check to paycheck. So yeah. Klein controlled his habit of tapping the armrest with his fingertips and calmly explained, humans can be fooled easily by their sensory organs. The jargon he spewed out confused Sir Dewey, Sergeant Kate, and the rest, causing them to subconsciously opt to believe him. Let me give a simple example of this. This was one of the cases that I previously dealt with. Oh my god, Klein! One man at a dinner banquet and invited 35 guests. Midway, he suddenly felt disgusted and puked. After that, he even had severe diarrhea. After a couple times, he began to believe that he had gotten food poisoning. He shared this speculation with other guests on the way to the hospital. In the next 2 hours, there were more than 30 guests that had diarrhea amongst the 35 guests, with 26 of them experiencing nausea. They flooded the entire emergency room of the hospital. Klein has the stories up already. The doctors went through a detailed examination and performed cross-checks, and they concluded that the very first man didn't have food poisoning at all. Instead, it was a result of stomach inflammation caused by the change of feather and cold liquor. Bro had diarrhea over the feather. The most surprising fact was none of the guests that went to the hospital had food poisoning. Yeah. That in fact not a single one of them was sick. This is mass hysteria. Dewey will know that slightly and marveled. I understand now. Humans do lie to themselves easily. It's no wonder that Emperor Cell once said that a lie would become reality once it was repeated 100 times. Yep. Damn, Lion has like all those stories ready to take, man, and most of them are lies. At least some of them might be like influence what he has done before, but yeah. Officer, now How may I address you? You're the most professional psychiatrist I've ever met. Inspector Moretti, Klein pointed at the epaulette and said, Sir, your troubles have been resolved temporarily. For now, you can try to sleep now while I determine if there's any other problem. If you're able to sleep well, please allow us to bid farewell ahead of time instead of waiting for you to wake up. All right, Tyrrell massaged his forehead, took his cane, and walked upstairs to his bedroom. It's Monday. Half an hour later, a police carriage left the fountain and door Tyrrell's residence. It's Monday. Because this special mission that was given to him by Tan had to be done on Monday. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Sergeant Kate, where? Okay. When Sergeant Kate got off the way and returned to the police station, Inspector Toll looked toward Klein. He complimented in jest. I believe that you were a real psychological expert. Before he finished his sentence, he saw the young man in black and white checkered uniform looking expressionless. His eyes were deep and serene as he forced a smirk on his face and said, I only had some experience with it in the past. Damn. Inspector Toll fell silent until the carriage arrived outside 36 Suitland Street. Thank you for your assistance, allowing Sir Tyrrell to be finally free from his problems and be able to find sleep again. He extended his hand and shook Klein's hand. Thanks, done on my behalf. Klein nodded slightly and said, alright. He went up the stairs and returned to the Blackthorn Security Company. He knocked and entered the captain's office. Done? Dunn was waiting for his lunch. Done. Klein massaged his forehead and kept his reply short and simple. The root of the problem stemmed from the lead and porcelain factory under Sir Tyrrell. From the moment they were established to this day, too many deaths have been caused by lead poisoning. Every accident left Sir Tyrrell with some resentful spirituality. Generally speaking, that won't bring too big of a problem that might cause nightmares at the most. Dunn had experienced similar cases with the plethora of experience. Klein nodded slightly and said, yes, that's usually the case, but unfortunately Sir Tyrrell encountered a female worker who died of lead poisoning on the streets. She collapsed by the side of the street and happened to catch a glimpse of Tyrrell's family emblem. She also harbored intense indignation, so very desires. It was only when Sir Tyrrell gave her parents, brother and sister a compensation of £300 did her emotions dissipate. Sheesh. This is a societal problem. It isn't rare in the age of steam and machinery. Tan took out his smoking pipe, smelled the tobacco and sighed. Workers that make linen work in damped environments and are generally diagnosed with bronchitis and joint-related alignments, as are factories with serious powder and dust issues. Even if the dust isn't poisonous, it can still accumulate into lung problems. We don't have to talk about this as the kingdom develops. I believe these problems will be resolved. Klein, let's find a restaurant tonight to celebrate you becoming an official member, alright? Damn, that's nice. Klein thought for a moment before saying, how about tomorrow, Captain? I have used spirit vision for an extended period of time. Oh, do you know why he's saying tomorrow? Because we are late to the meeting. Captain, I have used spirit vision for an extended period of time and used dream divination to directly interact with those resentments. I'm feeling especially drained. I want to return home in the afternoon to get some rest. Will that be okay? Oh, then I'll head over to the Divination Club at 4 or 5 in the afternoon to see how the club members are reacting to the news of Hannes Vincent's sudden death. No problem, that's only necessary. Dunn chuckled. Tomorrow night it is. Let's do it at Old Will's restaurant. Oh my god, Unc Will! Next door, I got Roseanne to make reservation. Klein took off his police beak cap and stood up to salute him. I smell a Tarot Club meeting. I do smell a Tarot Club meeting, guys. Thank you, Captain. See you tomorrow. Don lifted his hands and said, hold on. Did you mention that Sir Tyrrell gave the female worker's parents a compensation of £300? Yes, Klein nodded and immediately understood the reason why the captain had mentioned it. You are worried that they will get into trouble because of their wealth on the side. I've seen many situations in the past. Pass me their address. I'll ask Kenley to arrange them to leave Dingan from our city, start a life anew. Damn, out of like people are jealous and and try to like rob them, I'm guessing, if they learn about it. Alright, Klein replied in a deep voice. With all of that done, he left the office and entered the break room diagonally opposite. He changed into his original suit and left the police uniform in his locker. Klein took the public carriage back to Daffodil Street in silence. He took off his coat and top hat. He then heated up the leftovers from last night and ate them with the last piece of wheat bread to fill his stomach. Then he went to the second floor, hung his clothes, and slopped into bed. When he woke up, the pocket watch showed that it was already 10 past 2 in the afternoon. The sun was hanging high up in the sky, and the sunlight shone through the clouds. Underneath the golden splendor, Klein stood next to his desk and looked out the oriel window. He watched the pedestrians in old ragged clothing as they entered or left Iron Cross Street. Phew, he let out a breath slowly, finally overcoming his low spirits. Every journey had to be taken one step at a time. Likewise, his sequence needed to be advanced one level at a time. Everything worked like that. He shook his head and sat down. He started concluding and reorganizing his encounter over the last week, so as to reinforce the important points in his mind to prevent himself from forgetting them. 5 minutes before 3 in the afternoon. Above a blurry, boundless, greyish, white, silent grey fog stood a lofty palace. An ancient model bronze table sat there quietly. On the seat of honor, a long table sat a man already engulfed by the thick grey fog. Klein leaned against the back of the chair and contemplated. His suddenly extended his hand and tapped on the crimson stars, represented justice and hanged man. Background Empress Borrow, let's go! Audrey lifted her dress as she quickly walked toward her bathroom. Suddenly she felt something and looked sideways, and the shadow sitting on the balcony. As expected, she saw her golden retriever Susie, who was sitting there in silence, observing her as always. Audrey sighed and drew a crimson moon on her chest. She then got closer and looked down at her golden retriever from a commanding position. Susie, that's not right. This is peeping. A spectre has to observe in open manner. The golden retriever lifted its head to look at its owner and shook its tail. After nagging her dog, Audrey didn't delay any further and continued walking towards her bedroom again. In the few seconds of opening and closing the door, she suddenly had a weird idea. I wonder if Mr. Fool would allow Susie to enter the mysterious place. Then there will be 4 members of our club gathering, and all of them will be Beyonders. Susie, do the Tarot Club, please. I wish, by the way. I wish. No way Susie can't talk. If they were let her express her opinion and share her thoughts, what will she do? Woof, 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 howl, howl, you. I'm mimicking a dog's bark here. Just imagine such a scene feels really strange. A mysterious and solemn gathering with a sudden barking of a dog. Mr. Fool will definitely kick us out of the Tarot Club directly. Audrey locked the door and sat by the side of her bed. She took out a piece of old yellowish brown paper from underneath her pillow. She read it repeatedly and entered her spectator mode. Oh my god, I wish, man. Susie? In a particular area of the Sonia Sea, an old sailboat which was in pursuit of the listener has already left the Rostred archipelago. Seafarer Olger Wilson was worried that the wall clock machinery would malfunction, so he entered the captain's cabin about half an hour earlier, in case he had misjudged the time, which would cause his subordinates to see him getting pulled into the tarot gathering. In front of him was a glass of nearly transparent liquor. The rich aroma swirled strand after strand into his nostrils. Olger trembled once again when he thought of the impending gathering, the boundless fog that presented itself in front of him in the hotel corridor, and the mysterious fool who sat in the middle of the grey fog. Olger trembled. He lifted his glass and took a gulp, using a burning sensation in his throat to ease the emotions that had stirred within him. Very soon he restored his calm. He was as calm and stoic as he always was. New diary page! Let's freaking go! Let's freaking go, man. I'm actually so buzzing for this. 1 second, guys. New diary page. Also, yeah. Dan Smith wanted to invite Klein for dinner to celebrate Klein becoming an official member of Nighthawks. And it's postponed until tomorrow because right now it's Monday. What does Monday mean? Tarot Club meeting, let's go. Above the grey fog, gigantic stone columns held up by a majestic divine hall. Two dark red blobs extended out into faint human figures by the side of the ancient mottled bronze table. Good afternoon, Mr. Fool, augmented with blurry effect. Good afternoon, Mr. Fool, augmented with a blurry effect. Audrey greeted him with a bow and smiled. It is unfortunate that there is no wine here, otherwise we could have a toast to your successful trial. She was referring to the ritualistic magic. You are more powerful than we imagined, Olga Wilson praised as well. What's up, Chin? Khan was surrounded by the thick fog as usual. He pressed down with his right arm and spoke with his normal tone, replying as though it was natural. Great, this means that we are on the plate of excellence. If you have any matters to tend to, leave you unable to attend the gathering on Mondays, conduct the ritual and inform me. All you have to do is change the line in the incantation. I pray for a good dream with the reason. Alright, Audrey quickly agreed. Mr. Fool, I obtained another page of Emperor Cell's diary. I believe I still owe you one page. I was away from land this week and haven't found any new pages. Olger placed his right hand near his chest and bowed in apology. No matter, I expected my request to take a long time. Klein leaned back into his chair and tapped the armrest with his index finger. He looked at Miss Justice and said, You can express the contents on diary now. Audrey bowed slightly and said, As you wish. A pen suddenly appeared before her. She recalled the symbols that she had memorized and tried her best to transcribe them. In seconds she saw the coat skin was already filled with content. The strange symbols neatly covered the entire page. After checking the content, she put down the fountain pen and said, It's done! Klein raised his hand and the coatskin parchment appeared in his palm. Shifting his gaze down, he started to reading without emotion. July 9th. I suddenly thought of an interesting question. The sequence pathways are also called the blessing of divinities or paths of the divine. Then why will the stone slate that records the completed 22 sequence pathways were called the blasphemy state? Blasphemy, what an interesting term. Just who is the one who blasphemed? Interesting indeed, because you know why? Do you know why? It's because blasphemy means you are like not believing in God, right? Isn't that what blasphemy means? So it's a very interesting question by Roseanne indeed. Let's get the exact etymology up here. The action of offense of speaking sacrilegiously about God or sacred things. That is very good observation, Roselle. Who is the one blasphemed? And who created the blasphemy slate? How would that person... What if the blasphemy slate was created by a transmigrator? How could that person hold all the sequence pathways? Just what other information was on the stone? I really want to see it. Okay. We only know about the pathways and the stone, nothing else, right? Was there more information even to begin with? Why does Roselle think there was more information? July 12th, I realized another fact today. The sealed artifacts are an important component of searches over strength. Even though some of the sealed artifacts are very, very dangerous, among the 7 searches, the god of craftsmanship feels the least number of sealed artifacts, which are also relatively less dangerous. Did I join an organization without a future? No, I shall think of it this way. Only a blank piece of paper can produce a good painting. A weak organization is the best place for me to display my abilities. Exactly. Wow. Interestingly, I'm guessing every church has different amounts of sealed artifacts. And I'm guessing maybe even like unorthodox groups and gods and groups, organizations have what's it called again? sealed artifacts. Who has the most? July 14th, I saw the mysterious Mr. Saratul again. Ooh, I never expected him to be the leader of an ancient organization, the Secret Order. Blind pupils constricted when he read this. He nearly revealed an unnatural expression. The Saratul family only had a certain connection with the Secret Order in the notes of the Church of Evernight, but now he learned from the Emperor Rosal that the mysterious Mr. Saratul was further determined to be the leader of Secret Order. Bye, fan. Bear. My theory is that there were other gods' pathways recorded there and the current gods got rid of them. Interesting theory, yeah. Interesting. Does it have to be 22 pathways? What if there are more pathways that have been lost to us? Because the gods, it got rid of them. Are they still accessible somehow? If they do exist. Interesting questions, right? I mean, there are 2 blasphemy slates. Right? On the looks of it, it's an unquestionable fact that Secret Order holds the seer sequence pathway. While Klein was reading the entire Audrey looked over and began observing him out of habit. However, her field of vision was completely obscured by the thick fog. Momentarily taken aback, Audrey snapped back to her senses and turned her head frantically to look at the other illusory dark red star. I was too reckless, too insolent, too foolish in trying to observe Mr. Fool. I was lucky that he isn't angry. Audrey stuck her tongue secretly and pretended to admire the scenery. She was just short of humming a lively tune. Oh my god, Audrey. Olger sat silently, his gaze never leaving the long bronze table. He knew his place as if he was the presence of a true god. Olger sitting there like this, waiting for his turn. Like a good boy in class. Teacher, action, you have information for the next time. That's Olger. It could also be something meant to Rosel was killed because he discovered it. Yeah, I have my own theory about Rosel. My theory about Rosel is that he's alive. I also had okay. So my theories, and I have 2 theories on Rosel. My first theory is that he was the previous transmigrator, which is true, and he is guiding Klein. You know how Klein is getting 2 different kind of whispers. He's getting the whispers from Seer Pathway, but he was getting also whispers from earlier. I think from earlier he got it from the previous transmigrator, who was Rosel. Now I do think there is another transmigrator before Rosel. It's like a cycle of transmigration in the future. Klein will also be a god who will transmigrate another person from Earth, and that is basically Goi. Circle of Inevitability or whatever the other book is called, and Klein will be the god who transmigrates. And modern theory about Rosel is that he didn't die, but he reached sequence 1 on his pathway and become the new god of craftsmanship, and now it's called steam and machinery. That's what I think. God, so out of speaking there. Klein collected himself and scanned the last portion of the diary. After learning that I had become a savant, Mr. Saratul mentioned that I had chosen a difficult yet relatively safe path. I asked him why that was the case, but all he did was smile before telling me that that the sequence pathway contains secrets beyond my imagination. I couldn't help but ask him which sequence pathway he selected. He told me that his sequence 9 was seer. I eventually mocked him and asked if every seer only disclosed half-truths, never explaining things more clearly. Furthermore, he was clearly a powerful high sequence beyonder. There was no need for him to continue acting as a seer. Mr. Taratul told me that it was a habit he adopted from back when he was a seer, and that it was a method that could pique my curiosity and make me cooperate with him. He hoped that I could help him steal a dangerous sealed artifact from the Church of the God of Craftsmanship, a relic of the Anticonus family. Okay, so we know that from the Don Qua. Interesting. So what sealed artifact from the craftsman search? Interesting. What chapter are you at, Luke? This must wait until I become a core member of the Church of God of Craftsmanship. I asked Mr. Saratul how long it will take to digest the potion if I use the acting method, and what standards I should use to determine if I had digested it completely. He told me that for our lower sequences it would only take half a year to digest the potion as long as one strictly used the acting method. In fact, in the fastest case it might only take a month, and standard measure for progress was simple. Every beyonder will sense it immediately once the potion was completely digested. It is what it is. And it took Klein a month. I asked him for more details, but he merely smiled at me. To hell with the smiles. I'll beat up every seer I see when I become a high sequence beyonder. Oh my god. Rest in peace, Emperor. Klein read the diary several times before looking at Justice and the Hanged Man again. Sorry for the wait. It's our honor. It's our honor. Audrey was still shocked, forgetting she was a spectator. She looked at Hanged Man and organized her words. Where can I find the psychology alchemists? Psychology alchemist. Klein suddenly recalled the man buying supplementary ingredients for the spectre potion at the Tingen underground market. Perhaps he was a member of psychology alchemists. Interesting, I remember. Waiting for me. Aw. Wow, that's so sweet. Oh. Just as Klein was considering how to get close to that man, the Hanged Man Olger Wilson shook his head and said, Miss Justice, firstly, I don't have a clue. Secondly, I don't think there are any Russians seeking out the psychology alchemist. What you should focus on now is completely digesting the spectator potion. Audrey glanced at the fool and noticed he didn't have any intention of adding to the conversation. She nodded in disappointment and said, all I want is to have plenty of time to prepare so that I can approach them more naturally. Alright, when can I digest the spectator... Alright then. When can I digest the spectral potion and stop the acting? Is there a standard that indicates when I can? I'm almost at the point where I no longer feel frustrated, nor do I hear the constant murmuring anymore. Olger looked at the fool in the fog, but saw that he didn't have any intention of speaking. He then deliberated before saying, if you don't use the acting method, the typical rule of thumb is to wait 3 years and confirm that you no longer feel restless or receive any auditory or visual illusions. There's a simple test to determine when you can. The method is exhaust your body to its limit. If you still don't hear any maniacal murmurings or see any strange things, at that point that will mean that you're ready to advance. Interesting. I guess this is just safe, right? But Saratul said to Roselle, you will 100% know when you digest the potion. But Olger seems to disagree with that, right? That wasn't useful at all. 3 years that long? Audrey criticized inwardly. Okay, the fool is about to speak, guys. Listen up. She had thought about this when she heard the armrest being tapped. Audrey froze, then turned her head in joy. She saw the fool tapping on the edge of the long table. Olger sat straighter, waiting for the fool to speak. The fool is speaking, guys. Klein said in his normal tone. For low sequence beyonders, as long as you strictly stick to acting, you should be able to digest the medicine in half a year. It's even possible to do it in a month. I looked at Justice and added, as for the science of digestion, you'll know it when it comes. It doesn't need to be taught. 1 month, great. 1 month, great. Thank you, Mr. Fool, Audrey exclaimed while brimming with joy. Come on, Audrey, come on. Miss Justice, don't think that you are the chosen one. The key point is half a year. Klein lifted his right hand and placed it beside his lips. Half a year. Olger repeated softly. Audrey sensed joy, relief, and intense doubt in his tone. What is he suspicious about? Audrey thought as she asked, Mr. Fool, have you considered adding more members? Klein leaned back casually. He had long prepared an answer. Susie! What's up, you, eh? Add Susie. This started as a trial, so don't spend much time thinking about extending our meetings. But now as a regular gathering, you must choose our members carefully. Secrecy is our motto. Audrey nodded gently and said, that is to say we have to follow a process of observation, recommendation, and testing process. Yes, a process. You can interpret it that way, Klein affirmed. In his mind, he was thinking about how he could inquire about the secret order and the clown potion. How can I ask a question in a way that befits my status? Klein was placed in a difficult spot. At that moment, realizing that Justice temporarily had nothing else to say, Olger took the initiative to speak. I've heard that the listener from Aurora Order is searching for traces of traces of true creator, which is the holy residence they advocate. True creator, Audrey asked, puzzled. It's an ancient entity worshipped by numerous civilizations and cults. They believe that the creator hasn't completely perished. The core he left behind is the true creator. All gave a rough explanation. Since the 5th epoch, the true creator has appeared in many forms, such as the hanged giant or the eye behind the shadow curtains. Many people believe the Emperor Cell referenced the imagery of the true creator when he was getting the tarot cards. Hence, there exists a card of the hanged man. Oh. At this point, he looked at the client and said, Mr. Fool, there's nothing with what I said. There's nothing with what I said, right? Is he trying to probe from my views on the true creator? Klein thought about the bloody man on the cross that the captain saw in Hannah's Vincent dream and immediately had an idea. Doesn't both of the hanging and the shadow imply evil connotations? Therefore, he chuckled and said, I am more inclined to call him the fallen creator. Wow, the fallen creator, that's cold. What the hell, Shara? Anyway, fallen creator. Also, Susie, the Dara Club, we have to get... So a listener was mentioned before as well. He's the one on the Sonia Sea that also Olga is chasing down right now. The meeting was very eventful. We got more diary pages, we got more info on Zaratul. Very interesting to me. I still think Zaratul is behind Klein's murmurings, and that's only because Zaratul is one of the only high sequencers that we know of, right? And we'll see. I think the second part of the meeting is still going. I want to see more about the new member info, what Klein has cooked up for us, right? And maybe Klein is gonna somehow ask about the potion, Seer potion, and clown, right? Ingredients for the clown potion. He has to figure out a way to ask it to not sound sus. So let's go. Aura. What the helly? What the helly? 94. I love Susie. Susie's one of the best characters. By the way, if you're enjoying the stream and you haven't liked the video yet, please like. It really helps to get the video out there. Thank you, guys. Hidden Sage, here we go. Oh, Hidden Sage mentioned. It's a fallen creator, fallen. Olga ruminated over the fool's words and fell deep in thought. However, what struck Olga the most was the fool's relaxed, natural, and nonchalant attitude. Klein is the nonchalant king. He acted as if they were equal. If he hadn't experienced the previous ritual, Olga might have thought the fool was merely bluffing and building himself up to intimidate him and justice, but now he was of the opinion that even the fool was inferior to the true creator. He was at least close to that level. Sheesh! If the fool was inferior. Olga is gonna place him so hard. What the hell? It's dangerous. It's also an opportunity, Olga muttered softly. He then spoke with a smile. Mr. Fool, your description is indeed more appropriate according to our observations. Beyond those who believe in the true creator, no, the fallen creator have a higher probability of losing control. The rest of them are mostly psychopaths. Holy shit, Olga is using the term that Klein said. That's something that the High Talks intelligence mentioned as well, and the so-called psychopaths didn't lose their sanity. Instead, their ideologies became twisted. Klein maintained his seated posture and didn't continue with the conversation. He was still considering how to inquire about the secret order and the clown potion, but he couldn't figure out a way of asking the question in a way that fit his persona. It's such a pity that the gathering is still so different from the internet forum. Otter was able to create another Smurf account to join the gathering. Imagine Line smurfing. On that account will be in charge of asking questions. Inconvenient for me to ask. Perhaps one day I'll learn mirror-related magic and give it a try. For example, I can make half the members here in my Smurf accounts. Holy shit. There are 22 chairs here. One for each pathway, by the way. And there are 22 cards in the carrot deck. That matches perfectly. But when I created this divine hall, I didn't even name myself the Fool, or have any intention of forming the Tarot Club. They symbolize the 22 different sequence pathways. Ooh. I want a divine hall, so a divine hall appeared. If I wanted a Smurf account, I would get a Smurf account. Upon seeing the fool remain silently engulfed in thick grey fog, Audrey asked both wistfully and curiously, "That sounds crazy, Mr. Hanged Man. Could you share in detail information about each and every mysterious organization? Also the matters regarding each secret cult? It's hard for me to come into contact with them during my daily life. I can only understand them through my both of you. I'm willing to pay for it. May I know what you like in return?" Audrey with the assist, by the way. That's a great question, Miss Justice. You're playing on the role of my Smurf account to a certain extent. This way, the Hanged Man will definitely bring up the secret order. You're the best, Glenn mind stirred when he heard that, but he didn't let his emotions show through his expression or movements. Olger thought for a moment before saying, I need money, £1,000. It'd be best if you were pill marked by serial number, or maybe gemstones that have just been unearthed. Price them according to the background jewelry exchange monthly average price. Jesus Christ, £1,000, that's a huge sum of money. It would be used to buy a house in a high-class street in Tingen. Not everyone would have that available immediately. Captain might have an annual salary like that, I guess. Haley Delth conversation was only £300. Although Miss Justice is a noble, she obviously hasn't inherited her family wealth yet, and she's only been receiving some sort of annual allowance. It's no wonder that Hanged Man stated that I could be paid via gemstones. Blind was very sensitive towards monetary figures. Luckily, he was blanketed in thick fog. It's nothing for Audrey, by the way. There's nothing for Audrey. It's nothing. That's her like pocket money. For a single lady or madam, the £2,000 could let her live a decent life. If £2,000 were invested, the investment could reliably produce an annual return of about £100. 5%. Wait, £2,000. You get 100%. How much is that in yearly interest? £1,000, Audrey said, sounding shocked. She then replied happily, "No problem. Do I send it to the previous address? Judging by Miss Justice's tone, she finds it very cheap." Client didn't look over. Olger was quiet for a good 20 seconds before he said, "Yes, send it to the Warrior and Sea Bar at Pelican Street in the White Rose borough of Brits Harbour. Tell the boss, Williams, that it's what the captain wants." "Alright," Audrey learned back and posed in a spectre-like manner. Hanged Man, you can start now. Wow. £1,000, just like that. Olga looked at the fool, deliberate for a moment before saying slowly, "Let's start from the Moses Ascetic Order. It's the earliest hidden organization, of course. Many think that the earliest hidden organizations are the Church of Evernight, the Church of Earth Mother, and the Church of the God in Combat. The symbol must be from Church of Storms, the Church of Eternal Blazing Sun, and the Church of God of Knowledge and Wisdom," Audrey refuted sulkily. Church of Goddess is the earliest hidden organization. That was the first time client had heard such a claim. What exactly happened in the fourth epoch or the third epoch? Because Beyonders, man, Beyonders became gods. Olga smiled and said, "The truth is buried in an ancient history. Only one thing is certain. No one has ever said that the Church of Storms or the Church of Eternal Blazing Sun or Church of the God of Knowledge and Wisdom were once hidden organizations. Alright, let's save some time and return to the main topic. The Moses Ascetic Order was first established by a few humans that had read the blasphemy slate. They believed in a non-anthropomorphic god called the Hidden Sage." Here we go. The description is that of a god, but it's more of an ideology. The natural law, for example, all objects are numeric. The Hidden Sage is the embodiment of spirit numerology, or that knowledge is supreme, and the Hidden is knowledge itself. Yeah, we went through like a Wikipedia rabbit hole last time we talked about this. I meant like wiki, not Lord of Mysteries wiki, but wiki, about knowledge itself being a god, basically. The original Moses Ascetic Order was very respectable organization, and it maintained a good relationship with other major churches. That's the part you read in Marilyn Sparrow video, yeah. Hello, Nick. By the way, how are you doing? By the way, Nick, is Third Duel a good person or not? Some people were defending him. They found out he's a fraud. or basically it's very greedy and puts people's lives in danger. Anyway, Alger looks at Fool deliberated for a moment before saying slowly, "Let's start from the most ascetic order." It's the... Yeah? I read that. Members of the organization led ascetic lives to resist losing control and to resolve the effects of remnant potion. They strictly kept their order secret and they upheld moral and religious precepts. They believed that humans continuously reincarnate after death. Not a fraud. YouTube username? That's crazy. Sequence 9 that the grasp is called Mystery Briar. The word warlock was also spread from that organization. Sequence 7. Audrey listened to Hanged Man's description carefully and asked sharply, "You said that the most ascetic order used to be a respected organization. Are they not one anymore?" Alger nodded his head indiscriminately. "Yes, they have fallen into corruption and are now an evil organization." "Why? I find their beliefs very good and very normal." Audrey expressed her confusion. You guys are interesting. You guys are so interesting, man. I'm questioning you people's morals, like. Okay, whatever. This was Klein's confusion due to information that he could get at his security clearance and provide the reason for the most ascetic order to fall from grace. Alger looked at the unfathomable Fool and tersely agreed. "I am not sure of the real reason. It might be because it has been buried by history. However, I have heard one terrifying explanation." In the story, the main reason why the most ascetic order fell into corruption was because the god that they believed in, the Hidden Sage, had come to life. He became the personification of an evil god. Came to life? This how? Audrey found it unimaginable as she replied with an incredulous tone. Without realizing it, she had exited from the spectator state. It's like a horror story, but the ghost is even a god. Klein's heart stirred with a surge of emotions as well. "I'm sorry, no one knows the answer," Alger had originally wanted to casually say. Maybe Mr. Fool would know, but he held back the urge. The ghost is even a god, yeah. I feel bad, by the way, about old Neil. Hidden Sage always gets my mind on old Neil. He had already teetered on the borders of danger once. In the Book of Storms 5:7, there was a saying that Olga remembered clearly, which was, "Thou shalt not test God." Interesting. Audrey calmed herself down and didn't press for more answers. She gestured for him to continue. Klein maintained his seated posture and his silence validated the Hanged Man's descriptions with his own understanding. 5:7, true. Hidden Sage can die for all I care. Yeah, I fucking hate Hidden Sage. Finally realized that there were 4 points that he needed to take note of. First, the Demoness sect was also known as Demoness family in the 4th epoch. Back then they had very few members and their beliefs were passed down through their bloodlines. Plus they would kill the fathers of their children and abandon their baby boys. Hence all the members were female, of course. That was all from Olga's description and there was no way to verify at the moment. Second, the Numius Episcopate that believed in death and the rose of school of thought. Death, by the way, we know that death pathway exists. It's the corpse collector pathway is actually death pathway, and the rose school of thought that liked bloody sacrificial worship ceremonies. Both originate from the southern continent, and after the colonial era came, they almost vanished under the attacks by 7 churches, but as such they began spreading to the northern continent. Okay. Third, the current psychology alchemist was similar to the earlier Moses ascetic order. They believed in non-anthropomorphic existence and believed that the human spirit could change everything. Fourth, the secret order, here we go guys, at the lowest activity level among all the other hidden organizations, thus they're the most unknown. Every time they appeared, they seemed to be after something or looking for something. What are they looking for? Klein suddenly recalled the diary which he had read earlier. The leader Secret Order Saratul cooperated with Rosell. His goal was to get something left behind by the Anticonus family. Their appearance at the time was to look for the lost notebook, the Anticonus family notebook. Klein narrowed his eyes slightly and felt that he had apparently found the key reason for the Secret Order's actions. There are after the things that the Anticonus family left behind. Klein suppressed his urge to tap the edge of the table as his thoughts appeared one after another. Oh, they were looking for remnant traces of the Anticonus family left behind. Then I must direct my focus on these areas and to obtain the clown potion formula from the Secret Order. After a further exchange of information, Klein announced the end of the gathering. By your will, Audrey and Olger stood up together. No, the gathering is over, man. Sheesh. Okay. I'm actually sad that the meeting is over, but not much info about the Secret Order. Yes, they are after some stuff from Anticonus family, especially the notebook. We still don't know if Mr. Said is Saratul, by the way. I'm still kinda thinking about that. We don't know if Saratul is alive. He was alive like a few hundred years ago, so I think high level Beyonders, even if you are not on a death pathway like Asik is, you still have a really high lifespan. You know, I'm taking influence from cultivation, don't go ask, by the way. I see Nightwalker, I see Masters. But he's just doing it because he is guilty. He feels guilty. Anyway. I wanna see more of Saratul, man. I seriously think Saratul is behind the murmurings. I think Saratul wants trying to go to Hornatzis and go to Flegrea or meet Flegrea. I don't know what Flegrea is. But what does he gain from that? He's trying to go there, something to activate. Maybe Saratul wants to get resurrected or something. Isaac losing memories might be a curse. Yeah. Good observation. Okay, let's continue. That won't do. Cutting off the connections, he saw both their figures shatter and disappear. Klein dropped his capella and attempting conjuring a Smurf account with his mind. As he thought, a figure appeared at the furthest end of the long... Wait! As he thought, a figure appeared at the furthest end of the bronze table. That figure was wearing a black tuxedo, a silk top hat, and a tall expression. His actions were clumsy and inarticulate, even though he was engulfed in grey fog. It was obvious that something was wrong with him. That one too, Klein experimented a few more times before sighing and dismissing the idea of creating a Smurf account. He was trying to make a clone of himself, basically. He attempted other things too. He continued to sit above the grey fog on the seat of honor at the long bronze table. He considered that Audrey had said, and he cast his gaze curiously at illusory crimson stars. After a moment of silence, Klein started to pray as a form of feedback instead of establishing contact with those stars. Amidst the tranquility and silence, he didn't receive any feedback from the 10 plus crimson stars nearby. Order to receive feedback, I need to pull someone above the fog here before I can reply. Klein nodded as he thought, feeling somewhat disappointed. He didn't want to violate someone else's will and forcefully pull them into this mysterious space. Klein was just getting ready to leave, but he habitually touched a nearby illusory crimson star. Just then, he suddenly felt that there was a faint and insignificant prayer deep inside. Oh, Derek! Just then, he suddenly felt that there was a faint and insignificant prayer deep inside the crimson star. No way! The supplicant! 95! Bro! We're straight jumping into it. I wanna see a prayer. Klein's mind stirred as he used the same method he used back when he spied on the hanged man. He allowed his spirituality to spread outward and touch the crimson blob. hazy and contoured image appeared within his sight. He could faintly see a blonde teen leaning on the ground, facing a pure crystal ball. Little son! The teenager was dressed in tight-fitting black outfit with a style very different from the contemporary styles of Long Kingdom. It was more concurrent with traditional clothing of the Faesak Empire and the Indus Republic the Klein had seen from reading magazines. The area surrounding the teenager was dark and had old furniture. From time to time the room would be illuminated, but Klein couldn't hear the roaring thunder or the pattering of rain. In the image, the teenager had his hands on his forehead, fingers crossed. He bowed forward, continually praying for something. His thick accent buzzed in Klein's ears. Klein listened attentively but discovered an awkward fact. He couldn't understand what the other party was saying. It was language that he had never come across in his life. To think that I cannot understand a foreign language even though I am the mysterious lord of this world about the grey fog. Klein gave a self-deprecating laugh. Dude, fraud. The fool is a fraud. He intelligently tried listening it once again in a manner of more attentive than he had to do English. Then when he had to do English listening comprehension tests back on Earth, as he was listening to the prayers, he gradually discovered something. Even though he had never learned the language the young man was speaking, he found that it had similarities of ancient Faesak. Father, mother. Ooh, these are like the meanings of those two terms, right? Did he lose his parents? I think so. It is quite similar to ancient Faesak, but not without its differences. Klein creased his brows and slipped into deep thought. Ancient Faesak was a common language in the Fourth Epoch. It was also the root language of all the contemporary languages of this era. Furthermore, it is still evolving. I cannot confirm it right now. But ancient Faesak is like Indo-European, you know? He listened to it over and over again, limiting the possibility of the language being a modern language like Loan Faesak or Intis. Will it be a dialect of ancient Faesak, like the language used in Antigonus Emily's diary? Klein tapped his finger on the edge of the bronze table and nodded indiscriminately. There was another possibility. Ancient Faesak didn't spring into existence out of nothing. It was evolution of Jotun, the language of the giants. The Faesak Empire in the north has always claimed that its people possesses the bloodline of the giants. Perhaps this is ancient Jotun. At this point, Klein, who lacked knowledge, could only stop. He retracted his spirituality without looking or listening into that scene. He had no intention of pulling the praying teen up about the grey fog immediately. He wanted to know what the young man was talking about first. Of course, before that, he had to observe him frequently and conduct basic tests. Phew, Klein exhaled as he leaned back in his chair. He enveloped himself with his spirituality and simulated the feeling of falling. After revising Roselle's diary, Klein changed into his formal wear and left to the divination club. No! No! Klein, no! Bro, it's like... I feel like there was some kind of event in the Silver City where Derek lost everything. He was so desperate that he was praying to an unknown entity, anything that can save him. And that unknown entity turned out to be the fool, right? I had no intention of pulling the praying teen up on the grave fog immediately. Oh my god. So Derek is gonna be praying, begging for help, and the fool is gonna be like, what is he saying? I guess he has to make sure to pull him first, you know what I mean? Like, make sure it's gonna be useful. Damn, I feel bad for Derek though. Probably something went down with him, right? Lost everything. I have blue balls. After revising Roselle's diary, Klein changed into his formal wear, left for the divination club. He took the public transport despite his bare eyes, but he did splurge to support Mrs. Wendy's business. He spent 1.5 pence on sweet iced tea to come with the afternoon eat. 1.5 pence, so generous of you. When he arrived at House Street, Klein tossed the empty cup in the trash can and walked up the second floor. Before entering the building, he pinched his lapella and activated his spirit vision. Klein had just entered the hall when he felt a faint, lingering grief. The pretty receptionist, Angelica, was sitting there. Her slightly red eyes looked unfocused. The grief will pass in time, Klein said with a gentle and firm tone as he walked toward Angelica. Angelica looked up abruptly and muttered, clearly confused, Mr. Moretti. Okay, what's up, Angelica? Julie came to her senses and asked, perturbed, You only know about Mr. Vincent? Oh, right, I forgot that you are exceptional fortune teller. Klein sighed appropriately. What happened though? Did Vincent die? Oh, Hannah's Vincent. Yeah, fuck Hannah's Vincent. Only managed to divine a very rough outline of what transpired. That's what exactly happened to Mr. Vincent. The boss told us that Mr. Vincent had a heart attack in his sleep and left this world peacefully. Angelica cried as she said, he was so friendly, so polite, true gentleman. He was the spiritual mentor of so many of our members. He was still so young. Damn. Anas was playing all of you. Though Tonghua made him look very mysterious and evil. I am sorry for bringing up this sad topic. Klein didn't console her any further. He walked toward the meeting room slowly. Angelica took out a handkerchief and wiped her eyes and nose. She then looked at Klein's back and asked loudly. And he shouldn't know that he was an evil guy. Yeah, it was. Hanas was acting nice around people. Mr. Moretti, what would I like to drink? Black tea. Klein preferred black tea over coffee, even though he found the black tea average. Jeez, okay. In comparison, he preferred ginger beer and sweet iced tea, but as a gentleman, it was no right for him to act like a child in formal setting. That's crazy. It was Monday. There were only 5 or 6 members in the meeting room. Using his spirit vision, Klein saw that each had different colors of emotion. Some were grieving, some were tall, some relatively unaffected. They all rather normal reactions. Klein nodded slightly. He picked up his cane and found the spot in the room. He was about to activate spirit vision when he saw Angelica walk in and walk toward him. Anas's voice in Tonghua, yeah. Mr. Moretti, a customer is looking for you. Well, it's person from last time. Oh, Borga or Bogda or whatever. The beautiful lady said with a hushed tone. You still remember him? Glenn asked with a smile. I wonder if he bought the magical medicine as I instructed. I wonder if he still needs surgery. Angelica covered her mouth and said, he was only a person who was willing to wait an entire afternoon in the club for divination. Glenn grabbed his cane and stood up. He walked outside without saying anything. In the reception area, he found a person who had sought his services the other day. He also noticed that the aura near his liver had regained its normal color. Overall health was also improved. Congratulations for feeling being healthy is wonderful indeed. Glenn smiled as he extended a hand. Bogda was first taken aback before he immediately extended both of his hands. He grabbed Klein's right palm tightly. Mr. Moretti, you truly see my condition. Yes, I have fully recovered. The doctors asked me the questions over and over again. Ran repeated tests on me, but they cannot believe that I recovered just like that. The apothecary, man. Apothecary cooked up a medicine for you. Upon hearing Bogda's ecstatic description, Glenn calmly confirmed one thing. The apothecary at Lawson's folk herb store was definitely a beyonder. He had seen how severe the man's liver disease had been. Only healing him in a span of few days was beyond the capability of herbs and medical ability. The only possible explanation was that of a beyonder. Coupled with the incident with Glacis, there will be one answer. You have to repent to God. Think that I will suspect you, suspect a miraculous doctor. Bogda refused to let go of Heine's hand. He continued about his shame and gratitude. Those 10 pounds were truly money well spent. I bought my life back. What 10 pounds? You spent 10 pounds on the miracles medicine and you only gave me 8 pence for my divination? Just 8 pence? 8 pence? Klein was dazed just hearing about it. Damn. At this moment, Bogda released his hands as he took a step back. While beaming, he bowed reverently and said, I am here today to express my gratitude. Thank you, Master Moretti. You showed me the way and saved my life. It was the outcome of you being to have something divine. You need not thank anybody. Klein lifted his head slightly and looked at the divide between the wall and the ceiling. His answer fully expressed the vibes of a charlatan. Damn. Klein is so salty. Yeah, he is. You are true, seer, Bogda praised. Next, I'll be heading to Flat Street to thank that apothecary and buy the medicine he recommended. He's gonna buy the Viagra! Oh my god, this guy's ready to fuck! Haven't you already recovered? Klein expertly hid the shock in his face. Bogda looked around and laughed when he confirmed that the receptionist was not paying attention to them. He chuckled softly and said, the doctor mentioned the concoction of herbs that include a mummy powder. It's a prescription that will satisfy both men and women. I didn't believe the doctor back then, but I have no more doubts now. There's a prescription like that. Constantly felt that the apothecary was a cheat and suspected if he had pushed the person in front of him into a fire pit of doom. He observed Bokta and confirmed that there was no problem with his aura. Mummy Bowder, Klein cautiously asked. Yes, my Bowder. I have asked a friend. They said that even the nobles of Backland are manically looking for such an item. It's a powder made by grinding mummies. Which gives men peak performance in bed. Even though it's disgusting and sounds dirty, it's really a material used by aristocrats. Bokta gave a detailed description. He had an eager desire in his eyes. Sorry, nothing. Mummies made from corpses. They're grinding them to powder. Klein was dumbfounded. He nearly retched in front of Bokta. Those nobles sure are hardcore. This is it was about to advise Bokta against doing so. Glacius, who had suffered from a lung disease, previously stepped in the door and heard Bokta's description. Yes, it's very effective. I would recommend that you head to Lawson Volkerb store at Flat Street. Mr. Lawson's secret recipe is very effective. He took off his spectacles and leaned over his interest. He recommended with a hushed tone. My experience was very, very, very perfect. You know, with you, I was just at the Mr. Lawson folk herb store. Bokta worries vanished completely. After a short conversation, he left the Venetian club in a hurry. Up until then, Klein was still a little dumbfounded. What's worse is Mummy Viagra is actually accurate historically. Yeah, someone said that. I wonder if it's actually crushed up mummy. It's just a nickname, right? It's not actually a mummy, right? He waited till 20 past 5 in the afternoon before putting on his hat and picking up his black cane. He took a carriage from the flat street, intending to observe the apothecary named Lawson Darkweed. That's a very apothecary name, by the way, Lawson Darkweed. Before deciding if he could notify the captain or not. 18 Flat Street. Glenn stood outside the herb store and saw the closed door, as well as stopped taking notice. Quite a wormy man, he muttered silently. Oh, because they are moving to a new city, right? Since that happened, he no longer had to be troubled or perform any observation. Actually got crushed from me. That's crazy, dude. Chapter 96. We got Blue Bolt on Derek this episode, by the way. I'm just saying. My boy Derek. We got so Blue Bolt. Okay, I'm gonna make coffee. Then we're gonna come back and read more. Like 5 chapters more, I'm thinking. So I'll see you then. I'll be like 5 minutes. I'm gonna look it up together after I come back.